So, welcome back to Football League World TV. It's time for the final show of the week, and of course, that means it's the weekend preview. I'm your host, George Dagless, and joining me this afternoon are Ben Wignall and Chris Gallagher. Ben, how are you getting on?
Yeah, all right. We finally passed the busy transfer window at the end of January and back to just focusing on games, less hectic, and got obviously shortened fixture list, haven't we, to the FA Cup, but still some interesting games to take in all three leagues.
Yep, certainly some good fixtures coming up, despite the FA Cup fourth round action that's on as well. Chris, how are you getting on?
Yeah, not bad. And yeah, as I say, now it's just a real focus on the football for the rest of the season. So it should be very, very exciting few months ahead.
Yeah, certainly should be. Plenty to come up this weekend across the EFL. People, wherever you're watching, let us know. Let us know if you're going to games. Let us know what you're going to predict for your side this weekend in the Championship League 1 and League 2 across Facebook, YouTube and Twitter for the next 20 or so minutes, completely live as well. Let's get into it. We'll start with a Championship game tonight at St Andrews, Birmingham City hosting Sheffield United. Chris, let's come to you first of all, talking about the Blues. Obviously, last time out, a 2-2 draw at Pride Park against Derby County, when really they should have won 2-0 or at least 2-1. Derby obviously getting a very late goal through Christian Bielik to share the spoils. What should Lee Bowyer do with his side, do you think, this evening? Should he look to play the same team and get them out there and try and sort of rectify what happened at Derby, or do you think changes are going to be needed?
Yeah, I think probably the one positive was the new signings that came in. You had Lyle Taylor making an instant impact. I think Mengi's been there a while now, but he's doing quite well in defence, and Bakuna in midfield. So yeah, I don't think he has got too much choice, to be honest, in terms of making changes. So I think it will be a case of, yeah, you messed up towards the end of Pride Park. You've got to sort it out tonight. It's going to be tough, obviously, really tough. And the way they played against Peterborough, where they actually came from behind to get 2 late goals themselves, it was a good point, but it was a real worry, the performance. So it's going to be the fans at home. The home fans are obviously not happy with what's going on above at a higher level, but this is they'll be behind the team, I'm sure. But it's going to be a big ask tonight, and it'll be interesting to see how they do.
Certainly a tough test against the Sheffield United team that's obviously picked up since Paul Heckingbottom come in as permanent manager. They're sitting 11th now, the Blades, just inside the top 12, and obviously closing in, or they'll hope to be closing in on the playoff places in the coming weeks. Just 6 points now outside the top 6. Ben, Sheffield United, they recalled Daniel Jebison earlier on in the week. We did a piece on him earlier today about whether he should start tonight for the Blades at St Andrews. What's your gut feeling over this one?
I think he should, yeah. Obviously, he's been in pretty decent form in the last few weeks in League One. I think 6 goals in 11 games after he had a pretty slow start at Burton. But he's an 18-year-old. He's going to have spells where he's not in the in the goal scoring form that he's obviously got promise. He scored in the Premier League last season. Heckingbottom was the man to give him his debut in top flight, and he's kind of like a similar Ryan Brewster player, isn't he? Who's obviously injured, and he's been starting alongside Billy Sharp recently, and you'd expect Heckingbottom to want a similar kind of player to Brewster. Now they've got McBurney and McGoldrick, but I don't think that McGoldrick and Sharp should be a partnership in the Championship and they're starting out both in the mid-30s. They both played together in the second half. I remember last month against PNE, and they just didn't click at all. They were just very slow to everything, and they need some pace up there. So if it was up to me, I think I'd be throwing Jebison right in there. He's match fit from playing all the time at Burton. He's definitely a very exciting player, and linking up with the likes of Ilman and Diaz, could be a very exciting trio. Him, Jebison, and Sharp.
You'd have to, wonder as well what the decision would have been if Jebison has been recalled and then he doesn't feature. Given how well he was doing at Burton Albion, it would seem quite odd that Sheffield United would recall him then and not play him. That would be a pretty strange decision. Let's get to score prediction then for this one. Chris, how do you see it going?
I think it'll be tight. I think I'll go for a 1-1. I think Blues will make it tough and can nick a point.
Okay. Ben, what's your call here?
I'm going to go for a 2-1 Sheffield United win. I think Birmingham made some exciting attacking signings like Bakuna and Ornel Hernandez can definitely make a difference. But I just think at the back, Birmingham might struggle a bit again for the rest of the season. So I think that Sheffield United might just edge this one.
Okay, we will see what happens there tonight. That's 7:45 kickoff at St Andrews. Coming up in the rest of the Championship this weekend, obviously with FA Cup action, there's not too many games in the second tier. Tomorrow sees Blackpool play Bristol City, Hull play Preston, and Swansea City play Blackburn Rovers, but actually lot for the second tier, which means we're going to move straight on and get talking about League One. And we're going to talk an interesting game, I think it's fair to say, towards the top end of the table. Oxford United against Portsmouth. First of all, Oxford sitting in 6th currently in the 3rd tier. Portsmouth sitting in 12th. 12 points back of the Yellows, but with a couple of games in hand. But Pompey are in poor form at the moment. Chris, let's talk Portsmouth first of all. Do you think this is potentially last chance saloon for them in terms of the playoffs? There's still games to go, and they do have matches in hand, but the form's not great, and Oxford are obviously a team that could potentially knock them further back with a victory of their own this weekend.
Yeah, I think maybe if you're an optimistic for Portsmouth fan, you'll be looking at it as last chance saloon. But I think realistically, it's going to be, even if they do win, it's still a massive ask. But I suppose, if they've got any ambitions of getting the top 6, they've got to win this game. But the recent form has got to be a real concern. I think the manner of the way they played against Charlton, they just weren't at it for large parts. And I think Cowley's making a bit of noise that he wasn't too happy with the transfer windows, working with a small squad. I think Sean Williams got injured, so there's a lot of negativity around Portsmouth right now, and they're not in a great position. So I think, whilst the table may look as though you can make up that gap, probably the reality is they're going to have to show top 3, 4, 5 form for the rest of the season to make the playoffs, and I don't think they've got that in them, if we're honest.
As for Oxford, Ben, it's an opportunity for them to obviously lay down their own marker in the top 6 battle, isn't it?
It is, yeah. They've been kind of, inconsistent in the last month or so. I think they drew against Cheltenham and lost against Wycombe before, getting that big 7-2 win against Gillingham. And I thought they might slip up against Wigan in midweek, but they, got a decent draw against a team you expect to be right up there at the end of the season. I think the one thing they did probably need to strengthen is probably at centre-back and maybe a central striker just to, ease the load off Matty Taylor a little bit. And they've got both, they signed Sam Baldock today, who's, not guaranteed goals anymore, but he definitely provides an energetic presence up top. And they signed Kieran Brown as well from Cardiff City, who should be a really good addition in League One. So they definitely make the right kind of signings before a game like this against a team in Portsmouth who are not in the greatest form. They've not won in at least the last 5 and lost a few as well. So I think Oxford will be right up for this one, and Portsmouth have got a lot to prove, and I think do have to win to keep their playoff chances up.
Okay, let's get to the score predictions then. Let's keep you, Ben, first of all. How do you see it going?
I'm going to go with another 2-1. I'm going to go this time for the home side. I'm going to go for Oxford to win this one.
Okay, Chris, are you back in Oxford win as well? You're on mute, Chris.
So I'll go for 2-1 Oxford as well. 2-1 Oxford, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I personally agree with you two there. I can see Oxford winning. I think Portsmouth at the moment, not a massively happy place at the moment, particularly with the way Cowley obviously described the transfer window, and obviously losing to Charlton as well at home wasn't a particularly great result. So it looks like it could be a Oxford victory this weekend. Elsewhere in League One, look further down the table with another fixture we're going to preview. Shrewsbury and Fleetwood meet this weekend. Two sides that have had pretty difficult campaigns, it's probably fair to say. Obviously, not as struggling as some sides are in the 3rd tier, but still a campaign that not much to write home about. But having said that, it's an opportunity for both sides to try and open up that gap a little bit more to the bottom 4 and those below them. Let's talk Shrewsbury first of all, Ben. They've got home advantage. Do you think they're going to be able to, take advantage of that and use it against Fleetwood this weekend?
I think potentially, yeah. I think the reverse fixture last month, Shrewsbury won away from home 3-0. So, taking that kind of result back to their home ground and playing the same team, it should be a really big advantage. They lost Ogbetter, who's a very, talented player to Swansea on deadline day, and replaced him with a loanee Matt Bonswell. But I think Shrewsbury's form at the minute, they've only lost one of the last 8. I think the start of the season, Steve Cottrell would have been, kind of fearing for his job, how bad they were playing. They were at the bottom of the table, but they finally got going in the last few months, and I think they could probably get a positive result here, and they do seem to be kind of on the upward trajectory. They could probably finish in in a mid-table position and get away from that relegation zone the way they're playing at the minute.
Chris, as for Fleetwood's chances, Ben's mentioned the previous game that they played not too long ago. Do you think it's going to have any bearing on how the COD Army go about approaching this fixture?
Yeah, I think their recent form has been a bit. There's 2 draws and a defeat in the last 3. But I think under Craney they've found ways to win games, which obviously they weren't doing, which is why he got the job in the first place. So yeah, I think they'll be seeing this as a good opportunity against the side, as we've touched on, that are around them in the table. So yeah, and it will, if they can get 3 points, it will start to open up a little bit of a gap. And when you look at where they have been in the progress that they've made under the new manager, they'll be quietly pleased with how they're going, and they will definitely see this as a really good chance to get 3 points.
Yeah, both will be fans in this one, I think it's fair to say. I suppose both, although they're not safe, they don't have massive relegation fears at the moment. They just need to sort of keep accruing the points. And both are proving fairly hard to beat at the moment, if not winning lots of games. Ben, let's come to you. What's your score prediction for this one?
I'm going to go with a 1-0 tie Shrewsbury. I don't think it'll be as open as the game at Fleetwood, but I think Shrewsbury will get a narrow win here.
Okay. Chris, how do you see this one going?
I'll sit on the fence with this one. I think it'll be tight. I'll go for 1-1.
Yep, certainly does look pretty evenly matched on paper. That's the League One section of this preview show wrapped up. Let's get on to League Two. Some really eye-catching games in the 4th tier this weekend, I think it's fair to say. Plenty going on at both ends of the table. Let's talk inside the top 3 first of all. Forest Green taking on Newport County, first v third. Obviously, FGR have been running away with it so far this season, and a team like Newport are obviously eager to try and peg them back and show that the title race is still open. Ben, can the Exiles do that this weekend, or is it an opportunity for FGR to sort of finally, not mathematically, but pretty much effectively knock another team out of the title race? And then obviously Tranmere will just be trying to look to close the gap if they can.
I think there's every possibility that Newport could get a result. Forest Green are not, unbeatable. They played Port Vale in midweek and got a draw. But with Newport having one of the the most prolific players in English football, in Dominic Telford, he's got 20 and 19. I think there's always a chance, even though Forest Green have got a very solid defence normally. I think James Roby, the Newport manager, said that, I read a stat saying they've got the highest XG and Forest Green have got the second highest, and naturally it might end up being a 0-0. But I think with Forest Green's recent form, beating Carlisle 3-0, beating Tranmere away 4-0, it's hard to see anyone, catching them with those kind of results. And I think there's a 15-point gap right now. They've got a game in hand, and if they win this match, it's an 18-point gap to Newport in third. So I think if they are victorious on Saturday, I can see, Forest Green having one hand on the title, which seems pretty mental considering it's early February, but they've been that good this season. If they do win on Saturday against a promotion rival, and I can only see one thing happening, and that's them being champions by about, April time. Yeah,
they've certainly been very impressive this season. Chris, it's an opportunity, I'm sure Rob Edwards at Forest Green, he's going to be telling his players, look, this is a golden chance for you to, take one huge step towards the title, not get complacent. Obviously, there's still plenty of time to go, but it's a real, big moment for them in their season, and also impressive set change that you've just conducted there while Ben was speaking.
I know, you can't rely on the connection around here, so hopefully this is a bit better. But yeah, as for Forest Green, yeah, it's a great opportunity, but it's one that you can enjoy because there's not as much nerves. It's not like if they lose, they're still in a fantastic position. So I think the manner in which they beat Tranmere, which was another similar big game, and then they went there and it was 4-0, wasn't it? I think that was a real statement win, and I think they're a team who they did draw against last week, but it was a good point, and they're a team that just look as though they're high on confidence and capable of beating most in the league. So I don't think they'll be worried about this at all.
Okay, let's get your score prediction, Chris.
I'll go for 2-1 Forest Green.
Okay, Ben, what's your thoughts on this one?
I'm going to go for a 3-1 Forest Green win. I think just the general form they're in will get them through. Newport have been pretty solid defensively. 3 clean sheets out of the last 4, but I can't see them being able to stop Forest Green here.
Okay, we'll see what happens there. Forest Green obviously looking to extend their lead and keep stretching their legs out at the top of the table. Let's move slightly further down the League Two table now, looking at the playoff race. Swindon and Exeter meet 7th v 8th in the League Two table. Two sides that are so often in and around the playoff conversation when they're in League Two. Obviously, Swindon have sort of bounced between the divisions in recent years. Exeter have very much been perennial playoff contenders in League Two, but never quite got over the line. It's a big opportunity, though, as always, for both when two teams like this meet. Ben, obviously, Swindon are the home side. Do you think there's a little bit of extra pressure on them, particularly after they only just about got a draw against Crawley?
Yeah, I think so, and I think they might be struggling to adapt without two the key loan players. They obviously lost Kane Kessler and Tyree Simpson back to their clubs in January, and they've obviously replaced them with a few more loans. Josh Davison and Louis Barry have coming up top, and in defence you've got the likes of Joe Tomlinson and Brandon Cooper. So they've been well replenished in the later stage of the window, but it might take time for those players to gel with the current Swindon players. I think on paper, I think there's no doubt in that Swindon have got one of the better squads in the division, and I think this could be a good chance to stretch the legs in the promotion battle, especially when Exeter, they have picked up a few wins on the bounce. They've drawn a few games as well, 0-0. They're struggling to have a regular supply of goals. Matt Jay has been he was scoring up until about November time regularly, but he's not scored since. So I think Swindon could take advantage of that, even though Exeter haven't been in horrific form. I think it's 2 wins and 2 draws in the last 4, but it's kind of an inconsistency to score goals regularly that makes you worry for them. So I think Swindon have potentially the edge here, especially being at home.
Okay. As for Exeter, Chris, not conceded a goal in 4 league games, which is a pretty good going defensively. As Ben mentioned, 2 wins and 2 draws in those 4 matches. 1 draw as well, obviously coming against league leaders Forest Green. That potentially could give the Grecians an edge, couldn't it?
Yeah, I think it's obviously obvious, but it's good to have if you can keep in clean sheets, you're obviously on the right track in one way. And as Ben touched on, when you're lacking maybe a prolific goal scorer, you are going to have to edge games, you're going to have to grind out points, and they've shown they're capable of doing that. So yeah, that is a very good sign for in recent weeks, because it's been a big improvement from in recent weeks. They've improved, and it's something they're going to have to carry on for the rest of the season. So yeah, I think if they'll back themselves to keep it tight, and then they do have the quality in the final third to nick a goal here or there. So it'll probably be a tight game, but they'll be confident.
Okay, let's get your score prediction for this one, Chris.
I'm going to go for another 1-1 here. I think it'll be a close game.
Yeah, I think that could be pretty accurate, given their league position as well. Ben, what's your score prediction here?
I'm going to go for a narrow 1-0 Swindon win. Perhaps one of the new signings, Davidson or a Louis Barry to make a late impact, maybe.
Okay, can make himself an early Robins hero. Let's move down towards the very foot of the League Two table. Scunthorpe against Oldham. I put in the pre-show notes. Will they both lose? Now, it's probably a little bit harsh saying that about these two sides, but they have both had pretty terrible campaigns. I'm pretty sure it's fair to say. Ben, let's come to you first of all. Let's talk Scunthorpe. They're in particularly dire form at the moment. Obviously, all season they've been struggling, but they can't even buy a draw at the moment. What case can you make for them against Oldham, though? Home advantage is obviously one thing. I guess it's just an opportunity to try and get something going for these final months of the campaign.
I think the only real saving grace is, the home advantage. Well, it's not really seen to be an advantage in recent weeks for Scunthorpe, but they have made some fresh signings in the last few days of the transfer window that haven't got a chance to impress yet. They did show some signs like in, I think, is it December time, where they got a few draws on the bounce against some decent teams, but since then it just ended up kind of in a false dawn. They've lost about 7 in a row, so it's going to be a struggle for them. And they're below Oldham at the minute, and Oldham have got games in hand on them. So if Oldham do beat them here, then I think Scunthorpe, if they're not consigned to relegation already, and they're not, because obviously there's still a long way to go, but I really can't see them getting out of it if they do lose at home to Oldham.
Yeah, as for Oldham, Chris, as Ben mentioned, it's an opportunity for them to at least sort of knock one side back. Oldham themselves are in pretty difficult situation at the moment, aren't they? Trying to get safety, but if they can get a result at Scunthorpe, maybe it gives them an opportunity to try and close the gap, as Ben mentions as well. Games in hand on the likes of Carlisle and Colchester above them. And their form has been a little bit better, not spectacular, of course, but 4 draws in the last 6 games gives them, a little bit of something to build on. So what do you make of their chances?
Yeah, I think they've got to take some encouragement from that they have been a lot more competitive recently. I think they kept a few clean sheets. A few of those draws have been 0-0. So then you're coming up against a Scunthorpe side that are the worst defence in the league. So that's your hope that you can keep it tight and nick a goal, because Scunthorpe are bound to give you a chance. But yeah, for Oldham, yeah, it's a similarly bleak outlook, isn't it? But they'll be hoping that this is the one they've got to win, really, to get not close, but within. You can try and make up that gap with the games in hand. So you can probably have a bit of hope if they win here. If they don't win here, I think whoever does lose has lost all hope, really. They know it's going to be tough enough anyway, but a defeat tomorrow for either side, and yeah, you've had it, really, haven't you?
Yeah, I think that's a fair assumption, Chris. Such a big game for both sides. Both will be desperate to win. How do you see it going, Chris?
I'll go for Oldham to nick it 1-0.
Okay. Ben, who are you backing here?
So I think with obviously John Sheridan's return, I think Oldham might end up, start picking up points. I mean, they've got a half decent squad, to be fair, and I can see him winning here. I think I'm going to go for a 2-1 win, and perhaps there's signs of the start of a resurgence, perhaps.
Okay, we will see. I always feel with games like this, when two sides are cut adrift in a relegation battle, they're more than likely going to cancel each other out and basically condemn each other to relegation. So I can see a 0-0 draw coming up here between these two sides. One more game to talk about in League Two before we leave you this afternoon. That's Salford against Port Vale, up near the right end of the table, just outside the playoff places. Salford at home against Vale. They've played 3 games more, though, than their visitors this weekend. But a very, very interesting transfer window, I think it's fair to say, for the Ammies. The likes of Matt Smith joining the club towards the end of the window. Ben, let's come to you first of all. What impact do you think those new signings are going to have on Salford in terms of the playoff race, and obviously, in terms of playing a Port Vale side this weekend that are one of their rivals for the top 7 spot?
I think the signings are massive. Salford do have that kind of financial backing where if things are either going wrong or, they're not going as expected, they can, make that change. Matt Smith, and he won't be on a cheap penny, will he, in League Two level after coming down from Millwall, and so anyway, an impact scored the winner against Carlisle in midweek, and Ryan Watson's another player who has come in from League Two level for Tranmere, and he's got a lot of experience and has been scoring. So I think those kind of signings can help Salford in the second half of the season. Whether a few poor results, I don't know if Gary Boyle will pay the price for his job, but I think they will expect to be up in the playoffs at the end of the season, and I think it's going to be a tough game against Port Vale, because they're normally a very solid team, even if they're not a very exciting team for the most part. They can grind out results, and I think it could be a close encounter here.
Port Vale coming into this game are on the back of a 1-1 draw with Forest Green, Chris. As we mentioned as well, they've got 3 games in hand on Salford, and at least a game in hand on all the sides that are inside the top 7. The level on games of Exeter, having played 26 each, who are just outside as well. So it's a good opportunity, isn't it, for Vale to, knock a team back that's played more games in that playoff race, and obviously boost their own chances as well.
Yeah, I think this would be a really big win for them, because I think people still expect, or you always feel Salford could go on a run. They've got the quality that you mentioned there. They have got it in them to go on a good run. So this would be, if Vale do get the points, that will knock them back, and it will make it really difficult. I think for Port Vale, their focus, though, will just be getting themselves up there. You mentioned the games in hand, but I'm sure all the managers tell you, don't they, they'd rather the points on the board. So it's about delivering. I think they're taking encouragement. I think they lost to Salford when they played last month, but they were actually by far the better team. When you look at the stats, I think possession, the shots, it was one-way traffic, and it was one of those games that you lose. So I think they'll take encouragement from that. Obviously, they're away tomorrow, so that's going to make it more difficult. But they're not a team that they'll fear. They're not a team that they'll be trying or will take a point. I think they'll be going there looking for a win, and I think it'll be. Yeah, it's going to be a tough game. There's not a lot that separates a lot of sides in this division, is there? So it's going to be another close game, and we'll see who's the best on the day.
Certainly a tough one to call, but that's what I'm going to get you both to do now. Chris, what's your score prediction here?
I'll go for 2-1 Salford.
Okay, that'll be a big result for them. Ben, what's your prediction for this one?
I think they might cancel each other out. I think it's going to be a 1-1 draw. I think two pretty solid defences. I think there might just be breach ones, but I think Port Vale will go home with a point, I think.
Okay, we shall see what happens there. That brings the weekend preview to an end on Football League World TV for this afternoon. Also brings the week to an end on Football League World TV too. That's it for the shows. We'll be back Monday. Just a quick plug. Do like the channel on YouTube, Football League World TV. Do subscribe to it as well. And like this video too. Help us continue to grow. But for myself, Ben and Chris, it's bye for now. Enjoy the football over the weekend, wherever you're going. Hopefully your team succeeds in getting 3 points. And we'll speak to you next week.